So a few days ago, I was checking out the protests that were going on due to the ongoing Tory party conference held here in God City, Manchester. As I was approaching the historic Manchester Central Library, I began to hear the muffled sounds of chanting, and I assumed it must have been the leftist pro-Remain protesters arriving behind schedule to protest the conference that was going on only down the road at the GMEX Centre. However, I was shocked to find out that it was not leftists, but it was Free Hong Kong protesters. I was shocked and pleasantly surprised to find a small but very loud and proud protest, and was approached by two friendly protesters and given the pamphlet. I thanked them and wished them good luck on their crusade. I relay this story because it is relevant to the viral video that was doing the rounds a few weeks ago on the internet. Basically, as we all know, there has been ongoing protests in Hong Kong around their autonomy, encroachment from the communist government on mainland China, and other egregious rights violations. The context to the video is this: a white woman was seen taking down posters of anti-government protesters and was then confronted by them, and this is what follows.
A public forum. That's what they're doing, but it's not working. This is not a public forum.
Not this. The garden was a public forum with the people, but it's not working out there.
Why?
Because
who's not participating? And why don't the universities get involved instead of protesting? What a waste of time for everybody. You guys should be enjoying your Sunday. This is not a waste of time?
No.
Look, is this okay? Is this respectful?
Why not?
Why not? If my mother saw me wrote this...
How do you do, you know? What do you do?
I'm not saying what they did is
But
right
they don't
at all.
respect us.
They're wrong,
They
too.
overdo
Yeah, well, no, so.
So, look, violence breeds violence. Do you agree? Do you agree? Violence, find me one case where violence led to a good solution.
I think for them, the plan was at a certain point, the only way to protect freedom is to give up a certain...
Okay, you're right. So the problem is, it's not the five demands. It's you guys value freedom more than safety. Do we agree? Okay, so I think safety is more important than freedom. If you have a safe environment, you can communicate.
You didn't say anything, you know?
Pardon?
But they're worried about their safety. So you hold on.
No, I'm not saying, look, your value system is different, okay? If you're older, the old thinking, like China's thinking, is safety is more important than freedom. Do you agree? Yeah?
She's yelling just
Okay, so that's your thinking, right?
No problem. This everyday come to clear up.
Yes.
And everybody will upstay in here. No problem.
Well, we shouldn't do
Enjoy.
this. We
喂
shouldn't
，no
do
no
this.
no，你唔可以試㗎。
告訴我，你說
对，
我說你不可以試的。
This is my city too.
Yes, very
Right?
good.
你按下個就可以試了嗎？
You can do
啊，
it.
你按下個就可以試了嗎？你這麼做不對，是犯法的，你知不知道？你这样是犯法的，你知不知道？那是私人财产，吃上的东西不能吃的。他媽的，想死了你！
Excuse me, I don't know English.
I think the old quote that Benjamin Franklin said rings true. Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. So apparently, it's just a waste of time to fight for their freedom, to fight for their rights and what little autonomy they have left. They should be concentrating on their studies. The university shouldn't be allowing them to do this. They should be in school. I think it would be the best for these students, if they are students that is, to be back in their university studying. However, I do believe that when an oppressive governmental force is threatening your rights and way of life that they agreed during the handover in 1997 to uphold, eroding these rights slowly over time, yeah, they need to fight for it. Their freedom takes precedent over their education in many ways, and besides, if they don't fight for it, their education would simply become propaganda, if it's not already, like it is in Western universities. Oh, and speaking of Western universities, I doubt she would be saying the same thing to students in Antifa or any of the other intersectional Marxist organisations. She would be right up there with her fellow NPCs going on about orange man bad, white privilege, trans rights, gay rights, etc. But as soon as these Cantonese students who have a legitimate grievance with their communist overlords, it is a waste of time. It's all well and good saying that violence begets more violence to these people, but does she not realise that it was the Chinese and Hong Kong authorities that started the violence, tear gassing and charging what were peaceful protests? By that point, it becomes a matter of self-defence on the part of the protesters. The same thing happened to the Yellow Vests in France. They started out peacefully, but Macron sent in the police and later the gendarmerie, and all hell broke loose, with people dying, getting decapitated and put in comas just for protesting. And of course, the Hong Kongers, how dare they value freedom over safety? Apparently, that is the problem. That is the crux of it. They should be happy that the Chinese are implementing more and more totalitarian security measures on them, and the rest of China, with a social credit system and facial recognition tracking them in their CCTV. This is something that should be appreciated and accepted by the people of Hong Kong, because we can't be having people exercising basic freedoms. Why? Wouldn't that just be bad for security? This is the same type of person that is pro-Patriot Act. This is the person that stood by and defended successive Labour and Tory governments over the past 40 years, eroding the British people's rights because of safety. If you do not value freedom, you do not deserve safety or liberty, because without freedom, there is no liberty. She says she values safety over freedom, that if you have a safe environment, you can communicate. Well, except that isn't how it works in reality. These safe environments usually mean restricting freedom of speech and freedom of expression. The reason why in Britain, on mainland Europe, and on all college campuses from America to Germany, there are speech laws, restrictions, and safe spaces designed to make us safer by limiting our freedom to communicate. Why do you think offensive speech is outlawed in a lot of countries in the West? Why do you think in a lot of Central European countries like Austria, Germany, etc., Holocaust denial and anything negative to do with World War II ideologically is banned? It is to create safety. Yet it doesn't create safety. As we have seen, it creates dangerous cells underground that explode into revolution. This is what happened in Weimar, Germany, and this is what happened in Russia and other countries. And what is currently happening now across the West, the reason why we have right-wing shooters is because of the systematic erosion of freedom of speech. A very ideological position is inherently unsafe and unstable for free, open societies. I'm sure China is a wonderfully safe and nice place to live, if you are apolitical or a communist, that is. And I just love her patronising language. The older, more wiser people in China have decreed that safety is more important than freedom. You must accept your betters' judgment. You are too young and immature as Cantonese people to lead your own lives. Not even the British Empire was this bad. In fact, it was the opposite. It may not have been a democratically run administration, but it was at least free and safe. It's almost racist in the way she says that to these protesters. I love how she stands there and says, "This is my city too," when it most obviously is not. She's clearly some kind of plant there. I mean, surely if she does live there as a resident, then she ought to be far more understanding than she actually pretends to be. She would not be lecturing them about how to run their own affairs. This is literally everything that leftists complain about what happens in the West. It is always projection. She is doing this to try and help a brutal and repressive regime rather than these good people of Hong Kong. And I think this white American communist, which is probably what she is, just symbolises what is wrong with the West, as well as the world. We have people who are far more willing to be safe at the expense of freedom. They are somehow okay with the idea of big daddy government protecting them against all dangers of the world, to wrap them in cotton wool so they don't have to do it themselves. And somehow, paradoxically, this is somehow going to make them just as free as they were before Big Daddy government was invited to save them. This is not going to erode their rights. This is not going to end badly for them or for others. Useful idiots, as Lenin and Stalin would have called them. But these people are everywhere, and they are in large numbers, and they are not unique to any culture or race. It is, in many ways, a natural reaction to bad events, but it is a reaction that puts us down the road to tyranny, to gulags and concentration camps, to 24-hour surveillance from CCTV in the streets, to webcams and Amazon Alexas in your homes, to social credit systems, which will dictate how good a citizen you are, and if you deserve basic rights and amenities. I do believe the state is important in many ways when it comes to security. It does have some important functions, like protecting from foreign invasion, to protecting property rights, which is why it exists in the first place. But when a state like China, which is not beholden to a rule of law and other things that we have in the West, at least what we should have in the West, well then it's a problem, isn't it? But anyway, I digress, guys. I think you understand my point here. I will end the video with this. These people need to be ignored and fought if necessary to preserve our freedom. Hell, try to educate them. That is what I would prefer. Otherwise, they will be taken advantage of and we will all suffer at the hands of tyranny. See you later, guys.